device working here. All right, let's see if we can't get started here. It's good to see everybody. Glad to have you guys on today. We are in the throes of summer, so I hope everybody's doing well, and certainly hope that you haven't gone crazy yet. I met somebody on this at a car wash, and this guy was like, I go, "Are you okay?" He's like, goes to our church. He goes, "You okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm okay." You need to pray for me, Pastor. I said, "What's wrong?" He's like, "Well, I'm already going crazy. Kids are back." I said, it's been 1 week, dude. It's 1 week. So parents are struggling. I think, summer's tough for people. So, praying for all you guys. Let's jump in, okay? Let's jump in. I started thinking about perseverance. I started thinking about how we, as men, deal with quitting, way too soon, and I kind of wanted to jump into that and see how we can, how we can talk about that. So, what does quitting too early look like for you? Why do you quit too early? What makes you quit too early? What makes you stop, from moving forward when Christ is calling you to move forward? C.S. Lewis says it's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. I think there's a lot of truth to that. Obviously, I think that there's some people that just know how to move forward. Everybody's got a load. Everybody's got something they're dealing with. Everybody's got something they're struggling with. But I do believe it is how you carry it, and how you carry it, I think, is perspective in a lot of ways. It is a perspective that when you there's some people, like, I'll never forget in the Chi-Fi house. We were doing something. Well, I'm not going to reveal too much, but we were doing something for a brother that was like, we were laying out some like massive paper he had. Like he was I forget who he was. Nice guy though, but he had all the pledges laying out this massive paper, 1, 2. And back then, we were collating it for him basically, and it was like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. I knew I had to get up and do it. But man, my attitude was just so rotten. I was just like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing? And everybody, and some of these other guys, just were like, having the best time, just having fun with it, and I realized that, as I've gone through life, there's always, there's always a perspective, and perspective is important. The way you deal, attitude is important. The way you carry it is important. Whatever weight it is important. And that's why I see people like Bill Henry, who passed away, just dealt with death with grace and dignity and love, and not an excitement because he loved his wife and his family, but just with an assurance and a faith, with an attitude, just said, what? It's a part. He would always say it's a part of life. Death is a part of life. You can't escape it. I got other people that are kicking and screaming the whole way, and I'll be one of them, probably kicking and screaming the whole way. And so it is important how you carry the load. And in Hebrews 12, 1-3, it says this: "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted." So Jesus carried the weight. He tells us all, you must pick up your cross and follow me. That does say something. First of all, the weight is unavoidable. If you think you can't, you're not going to be carrying a weight through life, you're kidding yourself. That's your first problem. That's our first problem. If you think there should be no weight, well, you're already going to be complaining your entire life. The deck is set against you. There is a weight. Life is weight. It's just how you carry it. And Hebrews really gives us a great example of what it really looks like to look to Jesus. He carried the weight. He carried the weight. He moved to the cross with faith, with trust, even the hostility against him. He endured the hostility. He endured all the things, much worse than we ever will or ever have. But what is interesting is that the Hebrews writer says, you know what? Well, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. It is interesting, like when you look at swimmers, they like shave their whole body. They've got, they don't want anything slowing them down. They don't want a hair to shave off a nanosecond off of the time. And any drag that might, cause them to slow down that, they want to get rid of. And so I think a lot of times we make it harder on ourselves. When we're trying to move through something, endure something, we make it harder on ourselves. And it's time to identify those things that make it harder on ourselves. If you're not in good shape, like physically, okay, and you're tired of, you can't see your toes or whatever, maybe it's time to, shed and lay aside some things that are causing that to happen. Where is it that we need to really identify the things that we need to prune off of our lives? All right. And identify the things that stop us to make us stumble. If you're having trouble in your business because you've got a short fuse with people, if you have those problems, then it's time to deal with that. It's time to start to look at that and understand why you're dealing with that. And maybe it's time to prune that off. I believe that, that self-awareness is so critically important. What weight do you need to lay down? Because it matters how you carry it. It's the way you're carrying these things that matter. And I believe that for me, when I've dealt with the hardest things, I've always looked back to, it's instinctual for me to look back to Jesus. Jesus dealt with it. Jesus handled all the things that I've dealt with, but just in a much more serious way. I mean, I've never had anybody betray me to the point of death. I might have felt like I was gonna die, but no one crucified me. No one wanted to murder me. No, I mean, it's perspective in a lot of ways. So I think that's important. I think you've got to, everybody's got to wait. Everybody has got an issue. Everybody's got something. All right. Look to Jesus. Time to put some of those things down. Some of them are unnecessary that are stopping you, that you have just become accustomed to. It's time to really put them, deal with them and then put them aside once and for all. I think in Galatians 6:9, it says something important. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. And growing weary is a part of life, and I like, when you're working out, it's interesting that the top athletes, for whatever reason, do not grow weary. There's something in certain people that just say, you know what, I'm not going to let, pain makes us grow weary. Failure makes us grow weary. Just the sheer weight of whatever task we're faced with can make us grow weary. I mean, there are a lot of things that make us give up. But man, when you see those real athletes, they never gave up. I've always been the type of person to never give up. But I've always been like, man, pain was something I never liked. It was hard for me to move through pain. Like basketball for me in high school was just a drudgery, because you got people that are really, I mean, there's some people that just never gave up. like, Bud Adams and Mark Erickson. I remember Will Acree doing, those, sprints back and forth, but just absolutely grinding them out, and I mean, but they just had that, they didn't have that pain threshold, they just didn't give up. And I think that, I think for me, it's important that we hear what Paul is saying in Galatians 6:9. Let us never grow weary of doing good. It doesn't say weary of making money, of doing your job, of your career, of, hiking to on the top of Mount Everest. It's not, let's not grow weary of doing good. And I think one of the most important things, and one of the hardest things that Jesus ever says, is this: love your enemy. You say, what reward is it to do good for those that love you, or pay or lend money to those that will pay you back? Jesus says, no, pray for your enemy, and love your enemy. And there is where we grow weary very quickly, where we stop, where we stop being the example. I mean, for men, it's like, okay, someone hurts me, someone hurts my family, I need to stand up, stick my chest out. Man, Jesus didn't do any of that. When he could have done all of that, he gave himself up on a cross. It was love that sent him to humble himself, and there is no weakness in loving your enemy. There's no weakness in doing good for people. There's no weakness in sharing your heart and opening up your heart to human beings and to people. Okay, and that's where, that's the mark of a real man, is how much he's going to share that goodness with other people. In business especially, I remember, competing for contracts with other companies and other people that, I knew who were my friends in the same business. And I gave up those contracts. And in one instance, I gave up a contract once. I gave up a contract to somebody else because I just knew they needed it. But when you start doing good for other people, that becomes addictive. One of the things we're going to be doing down here in Pensacola is, instead of giving out, sort of these swag bags that, gift bags, and just, we're going to ask people to fill a bag so that we can take them to the hospitals for people who have kids and loved ones that are dying in ICU. And so that's going to be sort of our first mission project down here is how can they start doing good and thinking about mobilizing their heart, So don't ever stop. Really you got to do the other stuff. Take care of your body, take care of your mind, work hard in your business. But man, the greatest thing that you could ever do is never grow faint, never grow weary when you're trying to do good for other people. All right. And that's so important. I think finishing strong is important as well. 2 Timothy 4:7-8 says, I fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing. And so here I really am wondering how you're finishing, how you are moving forward, and how you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing every single day. Finishing well is so important. All right. I think for me, I need to ask you, when you come home at night, when you see your spouse or whatever, however you come home, do you finish well? I mean, is it, I love you? Is it, what can I do for you? Is it, or do you drag your day into another place that you're being asked to serve, and to the person that you love the most? And I think finishing well there is important. Always a kind word, always, how can I help? Always, motivating, always encouraging. And I'm going to tell you, when you give yourself in that way, that's important. what's the last thing you did when you left work? Did you finish well? You know, did you say thank you? I had this one lady in church that just couldn't stand me, you know, and it was this person that worked at church that she didn't like me because I didn't put her on a committee. Okay, she wanted power, control, and I knew that's what she wanted. And I wouldn't put her on this committee because I just wasn't going to do it. It would have caused problems. Oh, she couldn't stand me, but every time I left the church, I would say, you know what, another great job today. Thanks for all your hard work. She couldn't stand it. She thought I would always, you know, she just couldn't stand it. But it didn't stop me from encouraging her. It didn't stop me from loving her. It didn't stop me from trying to get her to understand that, you know, we're in this thing together, you know, and you don't have to like everybody you work with. You don't have to like everybody you meet, but it's always important to finish well with everybody, I think, you know, and if it's a hard talk you have to have with somebody, then finish well there as well. There's too. Don't do it in hatred. Don't, in all things, encourage people, lift people up. Try to find a way in which you're, you know, can bring somebody back into a place where they're working in a powerful way for you. So, you know, I think that, you know, Paul would be one that would say, yeah, I've run hard. I mean, think of all the things Paul dealt with. Think of all the things that Paul had to deal with. I mean, he was, you know, beaten, half-starved, shipwrecked, you know, but he didn't stop. Now, did Paul make mistakes? Yeah, Paul made a lot of mistakes. I mean, Paul, you know, that email or that text that you know you shouldn't send off, and you do because you reacted and you let your emotions get the best of you. That was 1 Corinthians. Paul wrote the first letter to Corinthians. That was his first letter. He just eviscerates them, just absolutely lays into them, and therefore he has to write a second letter to sort of, you know, smooth out the first letter. And so Paul's not perfect. He'll make mistakes. He'll stick his foot in his mouth. He'll do things, but he knows that he's running the race. Running the race, ending well, finishing well, does not mean it doesn't mean you're going to not make mistakes. You will make mistakes because you're trying to finish the race. You're trying to do the right thing. And I think that, you know, Merton, I forget Timothy Merton, John Merton, I forget. Anyway, you know, just a great writer, a great spiritual writer, just said, you know, I know my attempt pleases you, Lord. You know, he says, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how I'm going to do this. One of his prayers is, you know, I don't even know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't even know if this is the right direction, but I know my attempt pleases you. And we don't always know where we're going to, you know, we don't always get the game plan right, but our attempt, you know, God might have said take a left and we took a right, but, you know, it might have been to take a left to help this person, but we took a right to help this person. You know, I know that God sees that we're trying to do the right thing, and I know that pleases him. We're not perfect. We're humans. And I think maybe I'll add on to that. Whatever you do, don't let anybody stop you from finishing the race. Okay, don't ever let that happen. There are plenty of people out there, and people clothed as Christians, wolf in sheep's clothing, you know, just wolves out there ready to undo you and stop you and silence you. Don't let them do that. Finish the race. Do what you're called to do. I mean, how many people, they had to finally kill Paul to make him be quiet. And I think that that's important, that you too know you have a light that needs to shine. Don't blend into the darkness, but let the light shine, and let it shine for the Lord. And I think when you do that, you finish well. Anytime you shine for the Lord, you finish well. Anytime you bring somebody to know Jesus, you finish well. Finishing well is not the contracts you win. It's not the money you make. It's not any of that stuff. Finishing well always centers around you sharing Jesus with somebody else. I want you to think about that. Just really think about that. Think about how, you know, you're in a race, and a lot of us think it's in the world. A lot of us think it's with the one who dies with the most toys wins. That's not the race we're in, man. That's not the race we're talking about. We're talking about doing good for one another. We're talking about loving. We're talking about sharing Christ with each other. And so therefore, when you're out there, Think of which race you're running. Maybe you're in the wrong coliseum. Maybe you're in the wrong arena. Maybe you're running the wrong race. You got to identify that first, I think. And man, when you identify that, I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying, go get a cane and a stick and sandals and walk the earth. I'm saying, but you do have to pay attention, because the current of the world does can sweep you away. The current of the world can, and before you know it, you're in another routine, you're in a pattern, and you've convinced yourself, like every other human being, okay, I've got to take care of my family. But you know what? Those are responsibilities. You've got to continue to try to find the authentic race that Christ is asking you to do. And it's all about sharing him with other people. That's it. That's what we say about you when you're gone. That's what they said about Bill Henry. He shared Christ. He lived for Christ. In his work, he lived for Christ. In his marriage, lived for Christ. All of these things, live for Christ. Finish the race well. All right. This thing in James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. So if you're going to finish the race, you've got to have the endurance to do that. And what does that look like? Trials will weaken you. Trials will make you tired. Trials, make you stop short. I'm in the gym, and I'm telling you, there are guys that are in there 2 hours. I'll get in there and go a half an hour, and I'm like done. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. But that's where you have to push forward. That's where you have to move forward. And it's not easy. Okay. Endurance is not easy, but if you're playing baseball, you didn't start out in college. You started out with a T-ball hitting a baseball. Go check those videos out of you hitting a T-ball. Go check out what Little League Baseball looked like 30 years ago. We're rolling around in the outfield, picking 4-leaf clovers, and, it was insanity. We weren't ready. We were children. No different than your spiritual walk. You can't. I mean, there's certain people that think they can do what I do, and I've certainly thought I could do what other people could do. At high levels. There's certain people that think that they can do what you do in your work at a high level, and they can't, because they haven't trained to do that and endure what you have to do to make it through a day. And so your trials are not things that should be looked at as, things you should avoid. Your trials are the training ground. Your trials are the strength. Your trial is the gym, the spiritual gym. Your trials are the place where you say, okay, I'm in a valley, but man, I'm not going to try to escape Lord, help me get out of this, but thy will be done. But while I'm in it, I am going to grow. I'm going to strengthen. I'm going to learn. I'm not going to fade. I'm not going to cower. My attitude will be right, and I'm not going to complain through this thing the whole way. I love to, when we're in valleys, we love to blame other people for our valleys. No, sometimes those valleys are all about you, right? Some of my valleys are about me. Some of the things I need to work on as a pastor and as a man, as a person, and as a child of God. I have to work on those things. It's the other people, the other religious leaders that don't think. I love the prayer of the Pharisee and the tax collector. We said this before in another podcast, but Pharisee thought he didn't need to learn anything. Pharisee was self-righteous. He thought he knew it all. He even said, thank goodness I'm not like this tax collector. And the tax collector was like, help me, my unbelief, I'm a sinner. Couldn't even look at the throne of God. Couldn't even want to get near it. He knew how bad his sin was. And Jesus said, well, who is justified? It's the tax collector. Whose prayer is honored? It's the tax collector. Endurance is hand in hand with humility. Pharisee had no humility whatsoever. Gosh, I know religious leaders like that. I've had no humility. You put on a robe and a stole, and you put on your chevrons and all these different things that you pile on your credentials. You stand in front of people that think they're listening to you, and man, that's a trip. That's a head trip. That's an ego trip. And sometimes you start to believe your own press, your press clippings that you wrote yourself, by the way. No one else wrote them about you. You wrote them about you. And you believe that you carry some magical power, okay, in front of other people. And man, that I've been there, done that. Nothing magical about it. You're just a dude wearing a robe who went to seminary. You're just another sinner, trying. The only difference between the people, you and the people sitting in the pew, is that you decided to make less money doing it, and you had the guts to stand up and face the one of the biggest phobias, just speaking in front of other people. You're no different. No different. The Pharisee's no different from the tax collector. It was all in his head. It was all in his puffed up heart, pride. And I mean, once you start to put humility into your life like that, once you really start to have that humility, take away that arrogance, all that. Sometimes God is going to, God has an interesting way of humbling us all in a lot of ways. I mean, life will just humble you. God doesn't have to do anything to you. Life humbles you. Life will humble you. Very few people move through life without it humbling them in some shape, form, or fashion. And that's where, you really, when humility comes in contact with the Holy Spirit in your heart, you can endure anything. Once you realize that it's not all about you and you don't deserve anything and you're not entitled to anything, instead life is difficult and hard, man, you don't avoid the trials. You look at yourself and say, okay, maybe I put myself there. How can what can I learn from that? How can I learn from that? And people love to see people succeed like that. They love to see people go through a trial and move out and do something with their lives, And that's what Sherry and I are trying to do. I mean, that's all the Lord is asking of us. And look, we don't need, if I can grow 50 small locations of Overcome that, I used to have churches that were in the thousands. If I could grow 50 locations with 20 people in each location, that would be heaven to me. I don't need to preach in front of thousands. I don't need that. That's all pride. I need to be focused on what God's calling me to do, and that is to bring people a new way in which to worship Jesus and to experience Christ. The church just isn't doing that any longer for millions of people. That's not a, that's a real thing. That's a real statistic. People are looking for other ways in which to grow. It's my job. God's given me and Sherry a lane to do that. What's your lane? What's your lane? What's your lane look like? And if your lane is, sometimes other people's lanes are harder. Don't look up and compare. Keep in your lane. I have to keep in my lane. If I look up too much, I see other people just who have it easier in my line of work. No, it doesn't matter. They have it easier. Fine, let them have it easier. Let them enjoy that. I am doing what I'm called to do right now. So endurance is so important. Don't give up too early. When it gets painful, the trials get painful. Don't look at them as things you got to get out of. Look at them as things that can really strengthen you. Okay, and let that humility come up alongside of you, and a lot of great things can happen. I need to ask you. We're gonna send you out now. So, but where are the areas that you're trying to quit? Where are the areas that the power of Christ can help you reshape your life and your struggles? Where is it that finishing the race is too difficult for you? Where do you quit too early? Why do you look at your trials as something you're trying to avoid instead of something that can strengthen you? Like weight in a gym. Maybe this last thing. Who do you need to really come up with? Who do you need to help you through it? It's not just Jesus. Jesus is trying to send you other people. Who are you avoiding? Who are you with that maybe you need to prune away? Not just give up on and not ever say see you later, but just in this moment, who do you need to not take advice from? Maybe, who's not a role model for you, right? All these things and more. How are you finishing well? How are you in your marriage and in your relationships? Are you letting the day consume you? You got to finish well. So a lot of things, man. But I think I go back to the C.S. Lewis quote. It's not the load that breaks you down; it's the way you carry it. We've talked about a lot of ways to carry it, a lot of positive ways to carry it. It's your job to go back and apply them to your life. All right, guys. I'm gonna pray right now. I'm gonna send you guys out, and if you need me for anything, just let me know. I'm here for you. Let's bow our heads. Let's go to the Lord. Here we go. Father in heaven, gracious God, just thank you for this day. Thank you for this chance to come together. Thank you for the men that are on today, and for the men that are not, maybe traveling, or maybe just sleeping in, maybe just tired from the day before because it was heavy. And be with them, love them, strengthen them. And certainly we give you the glory for Bill. We know he's in your kingdom and enjoying a new life. It was well deserved, Father. He lived his life he knew how to carry the load. He just really did. He knew how to carry it. Be with Sandra and love that family. Be with all that we've lifted up today. Strengthen these men to go out and shine their light brightly for the world to see, and to always, always persevere in doing good in this world and sharing you with all they meet. We ask this always in Christ's holy name, and we say together, amen. Guys, cannot wait to see you next week. See you Sunday for sure. Pray for a great day tomorrow in Pensacola for us tomorrow evening at 6:30 on the dock. Cannot wait to see a new group of overcomers. Hey, may God bless you. I love you. If you need me for anything, give me a shout, okay? Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.